I messed up tonight. I lost another fight. I still mess up, but I'll just start again. I keep falling down. I keep on hitting the ground. I always get enough. See what's next. Birds don't just fly. They fall down and get up. Nobody learns without getting it wrong. I won't give up, no, I won't give in till I reach the end and then I'll start again. No, I won't leave. I wanna try everything. I wanna try even though I could fail.
Welcome everybody to the Zootopia Minute podcast, the minute-by-minute podcast where we review, analyze, and scrutinize the hit award-winning film of 2016, Zootopia. I am your host, Chocolate Pony, and I just came back from a buttload of conventions. Is that a proper term, buttload of conventions?
Yeah.
So we just came off of a big hiatus, and I'm joined with my co-host, Simul.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be back. We are sorry we've been gone.
Yeah, sorry we've been gone. He just told me the meaning of his name, Simul, comes from a Martin Luther quote. I did not know
Yes.
that, actually. And
Yes.
I know a lot about Martin Luther.
Do
King
you
Jr.
now?
Somewhat.
Oh.
I studied
You-
religion a bit, so I know a bit
You have
about.
no clue, though, how often I'll say something about Martin Luther and people think I mean MLK.
MLK.
like-
I love milk.
I know. I mean, I love dairy as much as the next guy, but
All right.
come on.
So before we get off on track, because we have had a bit of a hiatus, and I blame myself. Yes, I know I had a fantastic book
I blame
tour.
him too. No.
I was traveling the country. In fact, I was just featured in the latest issue of Army Navy magazine. And if you read
Yeah, I saw
the
that.
San Diego newspapers, there'll be an article about me in one of the newspapers. And I just came back from two very, very big conventions that are relevant to this podcast. Anthrocon, the largest furry con, even though we're not furries. So
Yeah,
not
what do you mean
actually as
relevant? Jeez.
Yeah. And D23 Expo, the official Disney convention where I have a lot to talk about. But since we have a lot to talk about, I'm probably going to save D23 for the next episode. And this episode will make it all about furries. So there we go.
Oh boy. We've never had an episode like that before.
I know. But before we continue, a little business out of the way, we will be at BronyCon this year, and we will be doing a fantastic panel. We'll be doing minute 35, so we just want to plug this in at the beginning of the episode before we start. So if you're going to BronyCon, be sure to check us out. The schedule should be up soon, and as soon as we know our times, we'll be posting them on all of our relevant social media outlets.
Indubitably.
We are now at minute 33, lucky 33 if that's a lucky number,
Double
where we
numbers,
begin at 3300, where Bogo finishes his comment, "Tell the otter your former meter maid." We start at the point where he says, "with delusions of grandeur." And we end at 3359, where Bogo says, "Clawhauser will give you the complete case file." So finally we have a perfect cutoff point.
Yeah.
Nice, perfect.
Those are
beautiful.
rare. They're rare on this show. We finally have it end. You know, okay, so it's not as perfect as it could be, right? Because it
Yeah.
didn't start on like a scene change or before a sentence began. We still had a
ended-
cutoff at the beginning.
Yeah, and it had a scene change, but it's as rare as a
Yeah.
female doctor, so there we go.
Yeah.
All right. So it's actually a pretty interesting minute we have because it kind of covers Bogo's kind of change of mind. Not really change of mind, but compromise with Judy. And they're
Right.
kind of behind the door deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically what happens is Bogo, continuing on from the previous minute, is totally sick of Judy and was going to fire her, right? He says, "You're fired," in our last minute for insubordination. And he was just telling Judy, you know, you got to go out and tell that otter that you're a former meter maid with illusions of grandeur and that you can't take the case. He opens the door and immediately outside, Bellwether is there with Mrs. Otterton saying, "I just heard Officer Hobbs is on the case," which is not great for Bogo.
Yeah. And the first thing I thought was, how is Bellwether typing on that low touchscreen phone with her hooves?
Shh, don't question it. Although, no, we have to question it now because this is what we do.
Yes, exactly.
But we don't want to get too sidetracked right off the bat, but good question. Do you think they have to design different sorts of, I guess, user interfaces on electronics depending on what sort of species you are?
I wonder,
Are
before...
hooves electroconductive?
Well,
it's keratin, right?
So our current cell phones we use now, most of them are heat sensitive with feeling pressure from the skin and stuff. But
I
the
don't
original
think it's pressure.
no,
I
but
thought it was electroconductivity. Like your skin is, because you can get electroconductive wire that you can stitch into the fingertips of gloves to make them work with smartphones.
But yeah, so it's basically a little different. But what I want to say was when we started having touch screen electronics, they were originally pressure sensitive, and we switched to whatever the new system is right now. So perhaps in this world, once they developed pressure sensitive screens, they just never had a need to evolve beyond that point.
Oh gosh, that's awful though, because I hate the pressure sensitive ones. Those always make me think there's two places you see those a lot still. One would be ATM machines, and then if you go to a bookstore or a library and there's a computer to look up where like what section a book is in, those usually have those pressure sensitive screens too.
And
what I don't
FedEx
like
printers.
Yeah, and what I don't like about those screens, and it's part of why, like, when I was younger, I never thought we'd see touch screens everywhere like we do today, because I always figured they'd be that type of screen, is there's so much distance between the surface you're touching and the image that's on the screen. You know what I mean? Like, if you sort of look at it from the side, you're touching a surface that's maybe a quarter inch above where you actually see the mouse is on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I hate that sort of thing. And I'll see that as an advertising point for some sorts of drawing tablets. It's only like 0.5 millimeter between what you touch and what's being put on the screen, or it's even less than that, because I could imagine how when you're drawing that would be really annoying if, oh, the line appeared, slightly down into the left of where I meant it to from my perspective,
Of course I know. That's my profession.
Yeah,
drawing on
you're
this tablet.
But you don't use one of those tablets, right? You just use one.
I'm starting
It's
to.
not the screen. Your tablet isn't the screen.
No.
It's
My main one I've been using up to this point is I draw on a little bamboo, and
I've got
it
one of those
appears
too.
on the screen. But I bought my last month. I bought my roommate some big 27-inch Cintiq, which I'm buying off him for $2,000. So it's a big expense, but it's my profession, so it might be a good investment. But yeah, no, that's why when I was in high school, when that shift started happening towards the touchscreen phones, I was thinking they would never catch on because they wouldn't have the same, sensitivity, and they wouldn't have the same accuracy for especially when typing, and texting was a really, really big thing. Well, it still is now.
Yeah.
So I always thought the physical keyboard would still be there in some form, but I guess not, because even the modern Blackberries no longer really have the keyboards unless you buy the really, really special ones for businesses.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing. The reason we have better touchscreens now, though, is because of the pressure. There was a demand for that kind of thing. We said, well, phones would be good with touchscreens. They're not very good right now. Let's make them anyway. And so all this R&D gets put into how can we make a touchscreen that doesn't suck. So because we wanted to do it, that's why it got better.
Yeah, but I don't think it would be a problem in this world because you do have hoofed animals like bellwether, but also for the animals with paws, most of them will have long claws anyway, so they'll most likely use those for typing and texting. Yeah. While we humans don't have any type of claws or hooves, so the thing that we always use to type is our fingers ourselves.
We have nails.
Yeah, but how many times have we typed with our nails?
I don't know.
Yeah, so it's a problem that exists
the picture,
in our world.
The stereotypical secretary, with the long, clip-on painted
Yeah, but
nails.
they still have to use, they still have to put their nails up in some way. My mom used to hate construction workers, those nails. Like, when we were living in the Bay Area, we would drive across the Bay Bridge and the Golden Gate Bridge, and she'll see construction workers with those long nails. She's like, how are they able to, do all this work without chipping their nails or getting it tangled and stuff. And she also commented how she saw one lady with those long clip-on nails working on the bridge. She also had a giant afro, and she had a hard hat, but it wasn't over her head. It was just over the top of her afro. My mom was like, would that even protect her?
That's safe. Yeah.
So yeah, but it's a problem that exists in our world but doesn't exist, I guess, in Zootopia. So
yeah, they've figured it out somehow. So end of tangent number 1. Join us again for tangent number 2, whatever that may be about.
In
but
5
yeah,
minutes.
so basically what has happened here now is that Bellwether was typing very quickly an email to the mayor, Mayor Lionheart, about Jodie taking this case, which completely undermines what Bogo has just been trying to do. He was just about to fire Jodie. He even said, "You're fired." I guess, no paperwork yet, but that it was pretty much a done deal until Assistant Mayor Bellwether just came in and totally shut down whatever he was trying to do with that.
Because Chief Bogo is her subordinate, and he doesn't want to be insubordinate to his boss now, does he?
Yep. It's an interesting hierarchy. Interesting that she happened to be at the police station, though. It was so funny to me, this whole scene, because she's saying, like, "Oh, Mayor Lionheart will be so happy when he finds out." And Bogo's like, "Oh, no, please don't send it just yet." And then she's like, "All right, and it is sent, and that is done, okay," and puts the phone away. And that part makes me laugh so much because I relate in a certain way, saying, like, okay, it's sent, and it's done, good. It's as if she's trying to stay on top of her tasks. She's like, I have to remember to do this right now. If I do it later, I won't remember to do it. If I put it off, so I'm going to do it right now. Okay, and sent, and done, and we are good. Like, that's the same way I often end up thinking. And so I don't know if that's why she did it that way, but just the juxtaposition of that with him being, "Oh, not quite yet." It was really funny to me. And I always laugh out loud at that part.
Animal?
No, I don't know.
Stop being so boring. Be a furry, come on. No, actually, I also had some type of reaction when I first saw the scene with Assistant Mayor Bellwether in the theaters. Two things that were running through my head was she was kind of shoehorned in the scene to provide, in a lot of bad movies, they don't know where to go to get a character out of a certain situation or not.
Right.
So they have to have a character there just to kind of move the plot along, but that's the character's only point. In fact, I just saw the movie with some Austin furries the other night called Valerium, based on the French graphic novel. But in that movie, like, Rihanna plays a shape-shifting alien called Bubble, and she only has a scene for like 5 minutes, and they introduce her character, and she's only there just to get them out of one sticky situation, and after she was done, they just killed her off. And I was like, the most pointless character in the movie, and they only needed her because they wrote themselves into a hole.
It's just a Deus Ex Machina kind of thing. Like, oh, crap, we forgot. We need to actually have a person available to fulfill this plot element.
Yeah, so initially I thought, okay, so there's two conclusions. One, that is Mayor Bellwether because she had to be there to get Jodie out of her firing situation. Or two, based on how she was commenting and undermining Bogo, she had some type of hidden agenda, which I, at this point, did not know what her hidden agenda was, but it's probably some type of small animals, affirmative action type
and she
thing.
does say, well, that mammal inclusion program sure is going well, isn't it? Yeah. And her tone of voice makes you think, is she being snide about it? Is she saying that kind of like, "Isn't it, Bogo? Don't you think so?" And
the convenience coincidence of her being there right as Bogo opened the door, I thought, okay, well, she's assistant mayor. She obviously has a lot of access to surveillance cameras and stuff, probably. Maybe she's kind of like a secret guardian angel or overwatcher of Jodie. So she wants, because Jodie is the first small animal on this force, and she's really, obviously, Bellwether's for small mammals and stuff. She wants to make sure that it goes off without a hitch. So my other conclusion was she was probably watching Jodie the entire time to make sure everything goes right. And if something goes wrong to undermine that agenda she has for small mammal affirmative action, then she'll step in and try to, at the last resort, bail her out of it. But I don't know if her intentions were good or bad at this point. But it was one of those two options. And seeing this as a Disney movie, and Disney, for the most part, always hit home runs with their movies, I did not believe for a second that she was there just to get them out of a tricky plot point.
Yeah.
So it was foreshadowing something that will come out later in my mind. So I always thought of her as the MacGuffin, especially at that point. That kind of solidified her as being a MacGuffin for something that will come later down the line. I just did not know what that was at that point.
Right. Yeah, you may have a point there. She is a weird character, though. Everything about her is kind of strange. Clearly, Jodie is appreciative of this little interruption and walks up. And, Bogo must be watching this whole thing like, are you kidding me? Like, why is this happening? How is this my life?
Well, that was the one thing I noticed in this scene was Bogo seemed so out of place. Like, Jodie looked so small compared to Bogo. And then when he opened the door and there was Bellwether and Mrs. Otterton, they looked smaller than Jodie. And I was like, oh my god, here is a big, imposing chief of the police surrounded by all these small female mammals.
Bellwether's a lamb, right? Or a sheep? So Yeah, and she is kind of smaller, like the same size as Judy. I think this theory you've been saying where Judy's a jackrabbit, like an especially large rabbit, that's gotta be true. Because a lamb and a rabbit, really? Like, there's an obvious size difference there. There should be, anyway. But they look like they're the same, almost.
Yeah, so I think one of our commenters said it kind of looked like she was a jackrabbit. So yeah, possibly true.
I think I'm going to go with that. That's my headcanon.
All right.
I believe. Again, the camera work plays an interesting role because the camera's paying attention to what's happening with Judy and Mrs. Otterton and Mayor Bellwether. They're all really short. The camera's down at their eye level. And so you look back up at Bogo and he's like looming over them all like some sort of monster almost, right? Like this huge guy coming down through there. And yeah, you know, it's juxtaposed by this comment Mayor Bellwether makes immediately after. Us little guys gotta stick together, don't you know? Judy says, yeah, like glue. And Bellwether says, oh, good one. And is on her merry way. And I'm like, okay.
Glue.
Glue. Why is that a good... Well, here's the thing. Good one, like a good joke? Because no, it wasn't really. It was not even really a joke. Or if it was some sort of reference to like hooves and glue. Like, but that'd be bizarre. Like
that would be a little far stretch, but I just thought it was funny
so.
Because at the TrotCon last weekend, apparently TrotCon was held right by a glue factory. So
fun.
All the bronies were taking pictures, selfies near the glue factory and group photos, which I thought was hilarious.
Good. I expect nothing less.
So, after Bogo begrudgingly accepts this new situation he found himself in, he closes the door and gives Judy 48 hours to find Mr.
Find Emmett Otterton.
Yep. Which is not that long when you think about most police cases.
No, right. The first 48. Isn't that a show about cold case file? Not even cold case, but like right after someone's been murdered, the first 48 hours are like the most important time frame of the whole investigation. Although I think in that show, it's not like you're fired immediately afterwards if you fail, because Bogo says 48 hours to find Emmett, but if you strike out, you resign, which is crazy to me. Like, that seems a little unorthodox.
How much power does he really have? Because he was about to fire her, and then the assistant mayor Bellwether walks in and makes a comment which makes him says, okay, fine. But once she leaves, he's like 48 hours. Now, would Mayor Bellwether prove on that? Or if he really did fire Judy after 48 hours, would she say, no, you can't do that?
I think he still has every intention of firing her, but it's just now that this exchange has just happened with Bellwether and the Mayor Lionheart has just been informed that she's still on and she's on this particular case. He doesn't want to have this immediate, like, no, she's fired. He wants to be, like, at least a little bit removed from that situation. Maybe he's waiting for an even better reason to fire her, like more validation for that.
Because I'm thinking, let's say he actually does go and fire her, and then Lionheart's like, wait, what'd you do? She was our star test subject for our animal inclusion project. Why'd you fire her? It's like, oh, she didn't solve it in 48 hours, and he's going to say, that's not a good excuse.
Like, okay, dude, what is your issue?
Yeah, so I'm not really too sure how much power he has in this specific situation to override the mayor and assistant mayor.
We'll have to see. I mean, Judy seems sort of taken aback by this whole thing. Like, oh my gosh, like 48 hours, if I don't do it, I resign.
But she does seem to have an optimistic look at the end, saying she thinks she
says,
can.
all right, I'll do it. I can do it. And Bogo says, good. Clawhauser will give you the case file. And that is where the minute ends. So the next one we'll have to see what's inside that case file, hopefully.
Yeah. And an excellent performance by Idris Elba as Chief Bogo, who is not the new doctor, surprisingly.
Yes.
A lot of people think him to be a doctor, but...
No. Yeah, well, that's going to do it for the minute portion of this podcast, I think. I'm definitely excited to see what's inside that case file for next time.
I want to know as well.
Yeah, but... because again, guys, it has been a little bit of a break. We do apologize for these breaks. This weird chunk of time following Everfree, where we were both kind of really busy. You went to like 12,000 cons between then and now. And
actually, let me see.
Not had a lot of time.
So we had Everfree. I had some book signings, which I won't count as a con. But I had BOFC after that, ACon, Anthrocon, Salt Lake City, PonyCon.
Crystal Mountain PonyCon, yeah.
And then D23 Expo. So 6 cons from then till now.
Yeah, so that's taking up a lot of weekends, a lot of your time as well, because you end up staying in those towns a little bit longer. You're on planes a lot.
Yeah, in most cases, I've been home for less than 12 hours a week. In fact, before I came back, I've only been home for the entire month of June and July for less than 48 hours, around the same time Judy has. which is kind of interesting because I would fly back Monday evening and then I'll fly Tuesday night. So very little time. But one of the big cons I went to, in fact, it's the largest furry convention in the country, is Anthrocon, which is loosely related to our podcast. I'm not sure how they're related, but kind of loosely affiliated. But yeah, so I got a table at Anthrocon very, very last minute. Every year I try to apply for Anthrocon, for a dealer's den, because their artist alley is horrendous. It's one of the worst run artist alleys I've seen in this country, but oh yeah, it's a horrible system.
And they're one of the cons that make a distinction between the artist alley and the vendor hall.
Yeah, which is a specific carryover from the 90s cons. But specifically for Anthrocon, I'm not going to talk about the Artist Alley, but the Dealer's Hall is fantastic, and there was a wait list. I didn't apply in time, so I was on the wait list, and like 2 weeks before Anthrocon, I emailed the dealer head, and I was like, hey, I'm willing to pay like double the price for even half a table. Could you get me something? And I didn't expect him to do it, but I just wanted to send that email because, you know, it's my job, and I would love to have some presence at Anthrocon. I didn't even expect to go. I didn't have a hotel or room or flights or anything planned. And he shot me an email like within a few hours saying, oh, you know, surprise, surprise, someone backed out of the table, so you have a table. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, well, gee,
sure.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, which is surprising because I guess there are other people on the wait list, but because I guess I emailed them.
You took the initiative.
I took the initiative. So I got a table for Anthrocon. I vended there. I got to experiment the setup. We could post pictures of the setup, or if you follow my Twitter, you've probably seen them. I had a little bit of fun. I got to focus more on drawing some animal-themed art. I had some Zootopia-related artwork as well, pins and wall scrolls, and gave out the last of our business cards there. And it ended up being a fantastic time. Anthrocon was a much better experience. The first Anthrocon I went to in 2015, I would say it was one of my worst cons I've been to in my life. This con ended up being one of the much better cons. I would still say BLFC, which was the furry con we talked about last episode,
right,
was kind of a little bit better because the hotel was in the same resort as the convention.
Right, you went into a lot of detail describing that really cool hotel.
Yeah. But Anthrocon, it's held in the Davis Convention Center, and there's only really one connecting hotel, but it's not an easy connection like the Hilton.
Pittsburgh, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it's Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. So there is a sky bridge connecting, I think, the Westin to the convention center, but it takes a lot of elevators to get to convention center. All the other hotels are scattered throughout a 2-mile radius in downtown Pittsburgh. And what is cool, I'm not sure if BronyCon has done that, I haven't checked. I think Acon Anime Expo does, but they have a shuttle service that picks up all these different hotels. So even if your hotel, like my hotel was about 1.5 miles away, I would have a shuttle that picked me up, but it was still an okay-ish walk that I could just walk directly to the convention center. But because of the scattering of people, there's not that kind of room party type experience where everyone at the end of the con get together in the same place. At a furry con,
though? I feel like at a furry con, that would be huge.
It's something that I see is more closely related to furry cons than BronyCons, actually, because it's a carryover. The room parties are carryover from the sci-fi cons. But
yeah,
no,
that's
like
where furry con started, was out of sci-fi con.
A sci-fi room party. BabsCon is another close example I like to use. But BLFC was a perfect example. It's very, very similar to BabsCon in that everyone stayed in the hotel. There's a bunch of room parties. So after the con, you could do all the stuff there. If you still wanted to go down to a dance floor, you could just get out of your room, go to the dance floor, and then go back to your room, rest for half an hour, then go back to the dance floor. So everything was right there. For Anthrocon, if you wanted to go back to your room, you would have to take that shuttle back and it would be like an hour back and forth and all that stuff. So you didn't really have that tight-knit feeling. But the one thing I noticed Anthrocon does so much better than any other con I've been to, even compared to San Diego Comic-Con, is it has such a unique relationship to its home city, Pittsburgh, which is something I haven't seen. I know Otakon and BronyCon do have some type of relationship with Baltimore, and San Diego Comic-Con has a relationship to its home city, same as Anime Expo to LA, but nowhere close to the really, really tight-knit relationship I've seen exhibited at Anthrocon with Pittsburgh. Even the first Anthrocon, where I did not have a good experience, where you have the mayor, the assistant mayor, like all the tourism people, like the mayor actually at the parade, all the businesses opening the doors to furries, saying welcome furries. Or there's some restaurants that have signs that says authorized personnel only, with a picture of a fursuit and a picture of a human crossed out. But the integration with how welcoming the city of Pittsburgh accepts the furries and the cons as a part of itself, it's just fantastic. And the closest example I could give is San Diego Comic-Con, but I don't even think San Diego Comic-Con
which also happened recently, didn't it?
Yeah, but that was a really, really cool thing to see, was just how close, because we think of the furry community as kind of the outliers, the outsiders, kind of the weird folks that people don't want to associate with, but to see a city so open and welcoming to the furry community, which was something that really, really surprised me. And this is this is a relationship I think most cons should strive for. So I thought that was a really, really fantastic thing. I didn't go to any panels, so I couldn't tell you how the panels were. There was a lot of fantastic fursuits. It was a really nice area. They had a fursuit parade. But yeah, it was an interesting experience for someone like myself who's not a furry, who's slowly getting into seeing what this community is about. I thought it was a really good experience.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a really fun time. Again, I've never been to any FurryCon before, but I really like to.
We are hoping to get you out.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. But yeah, no, I'd love to, because the local one here, Rainforest, is no more.
I think you guys have another
replacement for like another year. Yeah, they're always working on replacement cons. Rainforest itself was a replacement con for Conifer Northwest, which came before it. I don't recall what the name of the new replacement they're working on is, but it is going to be a thing. It's just a little bit of a ways down the road.
It's called Anthro Northwest. I remember because I tried applying for it, but they closed up. Once I found out about the con, it's like, oh, it's another reason to go to Seattle and visit my good friend Simul again. They already had their tables filled. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't even apply. So,
yeah, I don't know if it's about the same scale as the predecessor left off at. Which reminds me, how big is Anthrocon? It's probably what, BronyCon sized?
The last year it surpassed 7K, and I think it's probably about at 7,500 this year. So it's not as large as BronyCon was at its height, but on average it's larger than the average pony convention. But it's about the same size as BronyCon last year, which is surprising because people think bronies are a subsection of the furry fandom, so you expect the larger fandom to have the larger con. But no, Anthrocon, as the largest furry con, is still about at 7,000, which is under or just around BronyCon numbers. And it's also interesting too, because I was talking to a lot of other attendees of the cons, and they're like telling me, oh, look, it seems like Anthrocon shrunk this year. But when they calculated all the attendance numbers, it was higher than the previous years. So.
Yeah, isn't that weird? That's like with Everfree this year. It seemed like it was the same size or maybe larger. It actually ended up being less for the first time in its history. Everfree shrunk just a tiny little bit. So that's interesting. And there's all sorts of different factors that can contribute to that kind of thing. But it is cool what you're saying about Anthrocon having like a big connection to their host city as well. It makes me think again of Everfree, just because Everfree, we've been working with the same people in the hotel for years and years, because although this was only second year I think we were using that hotel, the DoubleTree, it's owned by the Hilton, and so we were talking to the same events staff from years past as well, so we've got a repertoire with them. They have a really good time. Like, all the people at the front desk in the hotel wear pony pins, and they set up pony posters, and the bar does pony cocktails like we went and saw. So it's cool to see that kind of thing when you know, you have an event that's just sort of become a part of the community. It's like, oh yeah, it's that time of year again when all the horse people come around or all the furries come around. I like seeing that kind of thing.
Yeah, or the comic fan says with San Diego Comic-Con. Oh, actually, talking about the hotels, because like I said, the main convention center is not really connected to any specific hotel, but all the hotels that were part of this giant shuttle chain played a role, because in every single hotel lobby that was near Anthrocon, they had a giant cardboard cutout of their mascot in furry form, and you could take a picture with this specific hotel's mascot. So I was staying at Homewood Suites, and Homewood Suites, if you look at the logo, it has a duck on the logo, and they basically made this duck into a anthro duck that you could take a picture with in the lobby, which is really, really cool. And every other hotel in the area had a similar
Howard the
thing.
Duck, you mean?
I'm not sure. It's a green, I think Miller duck. Apparently, the mascot already has a big mythology behind it because behind the Anthrocon drawn cutout for that specific hotel, they had a table of all these children's books of their mascots. So
Cool.
But
See,
all
that's
the other
super cool.
hotels,
I like that.
Yeah, but when I went to visit my friends at the other hotels, all the other hotel lobbies had their mascot in some type of furry form. So I think the Westin had a donkey. The Omni Hotel had some type of like tiger or something, but every single hotel had a
Nice.
Something that was drawn by the design staff of Anthrocon, which I thought was a really, really cool idea. So
That is a cool idea.
but yeah, so great experience, and it was a fun con until the next con I went to, which was D23 Expo, but we'll save that for another episode.
Yes. Yes. And that one was a vacation
That
for you
one
since
was-
you weren't actually vending or anything. You're just
It was my 13th con of 2017. Yeah, it was the first one that was a vacation, and where I finally got to meet my fox husband. So
Yeah, I
we
saw the
go.
photos from that. Well, that'll be super fun to hear about next time for sure. Oh boy.
all right. So anything else before we go? You've been gone for a while too. Do you have any fun stories to share?
I haven't really done anything particularly interesting. I've just been working for the most part. But yeah, just hanging around, enjoying the nice weather here in Seattle. It does get sunny during the summer, which people don't always believe. But no, I love the summer here. It's super nice. So I've just been enjoying that for the most part. Oh, I guess before we go, just some interesting news, because I think most of our audience probably would find this interesting and would already know a little bit about this anyway. But yeah, as we've sort of subtly referenced, maybe not so subtly, referenced several times already in this episode, something very interesting happened with the BBC making an announcement that was a little bit different from what a lot of people may have been
I
expecting.
know Graham Norton was announced as the new Spider-Man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy, right? No one would have thought that would have happened.
No,
But
I
no,
was
for real,
thinking-
we have a woman doctor. The
Yeah.
next doctor is going to be female. We're talking about Doctor Who, of course. Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor, is outgoing, and he's going to be replaced by Jodie Whittaker. And that'll be the first time ever that the Doctor will regenerate into a female form. So what are your thoughts on that, first of all?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that Peter Capaldi was a fantastic doctor. He was the doctor who started when I jumped in to finally watch the show.
Gotcha.
And San Diego Comic-Con that happened, I think, last weekend as of this recording, was his last, appearing for his last time as a doctor, and he got a big standing ovation, which I think was very, very much deserved. And I also thought it was funny that I went to 13 cons so far, and now we have our new 13th doctor.
Regenerating. There you go.
Jodie
Yeah.
Whittaker. So female doctor I kind of knew was coming on down the lines eventually, especially since the BBC is very, very progressive in its casting, to the point it has raised some questions. Like I think it was a little bit of a controversy when Mark Gatiss, the writer of the episode The Empress of Mars, he was a little bit upset that they casted a black actor as one of the Victorian era British soldiers, even though
Right.
there wouldn't be any. And
Yeah,
but then
where
they
it just doesn't
finally
make
found
sense.
we found one exception. There's actually been one I guess black British soldier, but he in this universe he apparently went to Mars. But no, there's been a little bit of controversy with BBC, and some people say it's too progressive in its casting, though I don't know. I don't really see it that much.
Someone mentioned that to me too, because I made on my channel, I made a video sort of in response to this announcement, and my whole take on it is like, okay, it could be good, it could suck, but someone responded saying like something that I hadn't really looked into much, is that like, yeah, there are past complaints against the BBC saying your hiring is ridiculous. They laid off a bunch of writers, I guess, that like just to sort of offset their diversity ratio or something, like things I don't know about, and I still haven't read up on enough, so I'm not going to go into detail about it. But
Yet there's still no Chinese
Yeah.
companion.
yeah, well, okay. Yeah, why does the Doctor, who's an alien, why does he prefer the UK so much?
Yeah.
Jeez,
No,
come on.
but
Like, what's
actually-
going on here?
I think we came off the wrong foot. But no, I actually think it's a fantastic choice to have a female doctor, actually. Mainly because I actually had an idea for a female doctor story a few years ago, which I think
Interesting.
would have worked. But because in recent years, and even right now with the news of Donald Trump and all that stuff, the idea of trans individuals and trans identity has become a really, really big focal point in popular culture and consciousness right now. And the idea of having a character who's been male for his 2,000-year-long life and all of a sudden shifting to a female body would be the perfect time to introduce a type of trans story where even though he has regenerated into a female body because he's been a male for his past lives, he still identifies as male even though he's female. So I think that would be a perfect opportunity to tell that type of story.
Right. And that's going to be really interesting to see. Like, that's something I thought about too, is like a way they could make it super interesting is if they go into that, like the identity crisis type thing, where he's been male forever. Suddenly he's in this totally different foreign body. If you don't go into that, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to examine that kind of dysphoric thing, which is a real thing for many people. So yeah.
That's actually why I liked that she appeared in Capaldi's hoodie and suit. I would actually love to have Jodie Whittaker like dress all male, wear no makeup, like completely act like nothing was different, even though everyone around her is like, but you're a female. I would love to have like Jodie Whittaker's doctor basically say, "My name is John Smith," and everyone's like, "Are you sure about that?"
Boy.
Because the doctor is alien. He's so alien to Earth customs and Earth culture that he probably I want him to be completely oblivious to how everyone's reacting to his new body, while he still feels like a he and just does not give in to that. That would be a fantastic type of story to do.
So we're calling him he at the moment.
Yeah,
and
I should
just
say
a note
she.
about that. Well, a note about that is,
I'm going to find it a little bit obnoxious if people start insisting that I say they to refer to the doctor instead of he or she, like depending on what part of the show we're in, no matter what part of the show we're in.
I actually like they because he's a collective. He is a collective of.
he's
13
not.
different-
No, he's. Okay. We could get way into this.
I know.
We're
It
running
depends
short
on
on
how
time
you see it.
already.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, he makes sense to refer to the character as a whole just because it's been overwhelmingly male for now.
Yeah.
She would make sense for this regeneration. We know eventually he's going to go back to being a he again because we've seen hints at future regenerations already.
Oh yeah, true. The
We had
Tom
the
Baker.
curator
Tom
of the
Baker's.
museum, and yeah, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, it's an interesting issue. Bottom line, I think, is that it could be really cool. They could also screw it up horribly, and I'm kind of not optimistic about it because you're blinding yourself if you say there wasn't at least some sort of agenda behind this. Like, I think you would acknowledge that, right? Like, this wasn't a purely story-driven thing. Would you agree?
Well, I'm not too sure. I know that Chris Chibnall, who's going to be replace Stephen Moffat as the new show director, specifically wanted to cast a female for the role. I haven't seen any Chris Chibnall's work, though. I know he worked on Broadchurch, which I heard was really, really good.
Which has Jodie in it, yeah.
Yeah, but I think he was also saying it would be better for him to cast someone he knows, and it would make sense he would cast someone from the show he currently works on, and since the other two main actors in that story already played a doctor and companion respectively, and the other main actress in that role is so big she would not have time to do the role. I think it's a safe choice for him to pick Jodie Whittaker because it's someone he worked with previously, so he would know how to write stories for her, I guess.
Sure. Okay. So, I mean, basically all I'm saying is that my bottom line is that whether it's good or bad, if it is bad, if it does kind of suck, we have to acknowledge it. And the thing is, it could suck for reasons totally unrelated to the actress now being female, you know? Every single time we've had a regeneration, people complain, no matter who it's been. People complained about 9, people complained about 10, 11, 12. Everyone has an issue with something, right?
Yeah.
So we have to let this one also get the negative criticism, right? Because if we don't, it does seem like pandering. If we immediately say this is because of sexism, it'll be a repeat of the female Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that would be my big worries is if, let's say, the stories
just let
weren't
the
up,
criticism happen.
I mean, if the stories weren't up to snuff, people would say, oh, it's because the Doctor is played by a female. Obviously, females can't act in the role.
Right, don't
or on the
scapegoat
other,
it either,
Or on the other hand, it would be, oh, you're only complaining because she's a woman, so you're sexist. So I could see both ends tying this up and making a mess of it. That's why I say just let Jodie be Jodie. Let whatever they do, just if it's good, then it's good. I'll continue to watch it. If I don't enjoy it, then I'll just stop.
Exactly. And that's the best we can hope for. Just let people enjoy it, and if they don't enjoy it, don't antagonize them, basically. And I'm just afraid that's going to happen. I hope it doesn't, but it probably will. Anyway, I think we've been rambling for a bit long here. I think we've been rambling for long enough. There you go, guys. Another extra long episode because of the hiatus there to help fill you in on. But yeah,
Special
that'll
features.
Yeah, special features, mail in the DVD. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode of Zootopia Minute. Thank you guys again so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at Zootopia Minute, and you can send us anything you think we might enjoy to see to our email, zootopiaminute@gmail.com.
Join us for next episode, and again, look out for us at BronyCon. We'll have the information
indeed.
posted soon.
Alrighty, thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.